Welcome, everyone, to Buddhist Center. I feel so fortunate to be able to once again be going over Lama Tsongkhapa's foundation of all good qualities, source of all my good, begging for a mountain of blessings, this incredible text that in 14 short stanzas encompasses all of the stages of the path to enlightenment that are necessary and in a complete form. And if we look at the text itself, and look at the various stages that it goes through. It goes through the stages of the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity, and the teaching shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and then the teachings for beings of great capacity, not only the perfection vehicle, but the tantric vehicle. And we see in the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment by Lama Tsongkhapa that there's that very, very short section at the end on Vajrayana. But if we want to know the entirety of, or the everything that Lama Tsongkhapa is talking about in the foundation of all good qualities, source of all my good at the end, and there's a huge emphasis on Tantrayana at the end, one would also need to accompany the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, unless you're like super, super high scope and sharp and able to just see a very condensed meaning and realize everything. Unless you're like that, which I'm not, you'd need to combine it with the great treatise on the stages of the tantric path to enlightenment. And then you could really, really understand the full meaning of these 14 short stanzas. So we're talking about, over 1,000 pages, maybe over 1,500 pages. I don't know the exact number, but it's around there between the two texts are necessary to really, really explain this beautiful poem of 14 stanzas. So you can see that Lama Tsongkhapa was so keen, so sharp in being able to really draw everything that Buddha Shakyamuni ever taught. When we look at the Kanjur, we look at the teachings on Sutra and Tantra, Lama Tsongkhapa was able to draw all of that out and summarize it into this beautiful poem, and then write about it a little bit more in the abbreviated stages of the path to enlightenment, the Lamrim Duden, which is the smallest Lamrim. It's quite small itself. And then the medium stages of the path to enlightenment, the medium Lamrim, and then the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, the greatest, the large Lamrim. But then when we see that this Lamrim that we usually talk about deals mainly with the perfection vehicle, we know it needs to be accompanied with the great treatise on the stage of the tantric path to enlightenment to fully understand what this poem is talking about in terms of the two stages, the generation and completion stages, and so forth. So we're not in that section yet, so we don't need to get into it right now. Today, we're talking about that subject that's so necessary for us to understand, to be able to realize emptiness, for us to practice Tantrayana, as we were just talking about. This topic of calm abiding is indispensable. And to get it, we really need all of the causes and conditions present for its arisal. It's not something that just happens because we want it to, or because we sit calmly and wait for it to happen. It's something that we, through very, very specific stages, achieve through telling our mind what to do, exactly when, to do this and when not to do that, and making our mind listen more and more and more. And we eventually get to the point where our mind does exactly what we want it to do for however long we want it to do it. And then once we achieve that state that's induced by a pliancy, the stabilization, and induced by this mental and physical pliancy, this kind of blissful state, and then you can kind of sit on an object for as long as you possibly want in order to induce that state. Sorry to get distracted. In order to induce that state, which could sit on an object for so long, sit on an internal object for so long, we have to produce all of the causes stage by stage by stage for its occurrence, and know what to look out for when we're doing the meditation, so that we don't think that we've gotten calm abiding before we actually have, because we're believing in some sort of feeling that's occurring in our meditation, or some sort of kind of a bliss that's occurring within our meditation that isn't really a focused bliss. It's a dull bliss that doesn't have the clarity around the object that it really should. So we need to know what to look out for and how to get to the place where we, even have something to look out for. So this is why we're doing what we're doing tonight, and why we're going over each of these stanzas and looking at them in such great detail, and why we've made this commitment to go over calm abiding for quite some time. And then we'll go over special insight for quite some time before we get into the tantric teachings, which I will not obviously give a great detail into, but we'll go over the basic framework of Tantrayana once we set up the basic framework, as we have, of the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity, where we learned, how to, get a better next life, how to get a kind of form of renunciation, a desire to emerge from the lower realms of cyclic existence, and how to have a practice that can actually make that occur. We learn this in the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity. And then the teachings for beings of medium capacity, we learn about how to get out of cyclic existence altogether. And we see that this text leads us through these stages where we learn about then the Four Noble Truths in their entirety, and the truth of suffering its entirety, and know what we really want to emerge from when we get to that medium scope. And that's all of cyclic existence, not just the lower realms of cyclic existence. And then we learn about how to not only emerge from cyclic existence, but how to, become omniscient, the most reliable guide in the universe, how to achieve the state of Buddhahood in the teachings for beings of great capacity. And no matter what we want to achieve, whether it's the nirvana in the teachings for beings of medium capacity, or the Buddhahood, we need this kind of calm mind that can then, focus on a very important object of special insight. And once we learn about how to do that, then it becomes, possible to talk about, the various stages that, could occur, in the next kind of level of practice. But we really need to have an understanding of the foundational vehicle, the sutra practices, and so forth, where we have first this calm abiding and then unite it with special insight before we can really learn how to speed things up, if you will, in the tantric vehicle. So, this is why we're spending so much time, so we don't have error in our stages. So we know actually how to produce these things. And it isn't just a hope. It's based on instructions that have been passed down from masters who've achieved these realizations and are just basically telling us how they did what we can do ourselves, because we have a mind that's just like theirs in terms of, maturing potential. And we always have to remember that this mind that we have can mature, can proliferate. This is our proliferating Buddha nature. It's that this mental consciousness that we possess can mature. Our mind is in the nature of clear light and unsullied. Our mind isn't the nature of being stained and screwed up and angry and attached and so forth. It's in the nature of clear light and unsullied. It is, these things are adventitious. These things can be distilled from it. And it's because our mind is empty of inherent existence, the natural Buddha nature that we have, that this is possible. It isn't stuck in a certain way. The mind can mature because the mind has this kind of nature, this flexibility that's created by the lack of inherent existence of it being, independently stained. It's, empty of being independently stained, or having some substantial stainness that's there that can't be removed. So we have this potential to mature, and we all will mature. We just have to do what is needed to mature, to study and learn what we need to do to mature, and then apply the studies in terms of analysis, seeing, getting to the point where our mind becomes more and more clear that what we've learned is actually accurate. And then once we've decided through analysis that what we've learned is accurate and discovered its accuracy for ourselves, then we really apply it into our, adventure of life. We apply all of it. So it's something that, we're always actively using our studies to apply to our life, and we're using our analysis to confirm our studies. And once this analysis confirms our studies, it makes it more likely that we'll apply it to life, because we'll believe that it's something that's good. We'll believe that it's something that's effective. If we're just doing it and kind of haphazardly applying things because we've heard, maybe it's good, we just have this kind of correctly assuming consciousness. When we don't discover it for ourselves through analysis, then it isn't strong enough to hold our attention. And then it's something like another hobby that we've taken on, we become bored with, because it really hasn't confirmed itself to us to be valuable enough to do it and only it in terms of, learning what's next. We haven't really confirmed it enough. We haven't analyzed these subjects that we hear enough. And the proof is that we don't day and night seek transcendent liberation. Because if we had analyzed the topics of the Four Noble Truths enough, and we had really seated within our mind the reality of cyclic existence, then all we would do is that day and night just seek transcendent liberation, because we wouldn't settle for, kind of the contaminated happiness, which is actually the suffering of change. We would be psyched that we have a goal that's actually going to produce a goal that's actually good. We have all these goals to have happiness in samsara. It's not a good goal because it's not possible. Happiness is suffering in samsara. But once we realize and identify the truth of what cyclic existence is, and we want to emerge from it, then it becomes such a more happy experience to want to seek transcendent liberation, because it's been dependent upon something that we've, really, really, come to the conclusion of as being valuable ourselves. Not because someone told us, but because we've discovered its value in our analysis. And that discovery of value in our analysis then leads to us to participate in life, and leads us to actually integrate these practices for a sustained period of time, as opposed to just haphazardly doing it, or doing it full force for 6 months and then giving it up, and then, hearing about it again and having some guilt, and the correctly assuming consciousness comes back saying, oh, I've really got to do something. But it's hollow. It doesn't contain, anything on the inside. It's just a bag, if you will, that, on the outside seems like there's something solid, and it's like a one thing that goes all the way through. But on the inside, it's just air. And that needs to be converted into something that's solid. And that gets done over a long period of time of really, really forcing ourselves into, understanding this stuff more and more and more. So this is the name of the game. This is what we try to do here twice a week at Buddhist Center, is get to the point where we can say, oh, what Buddha said makes sense, because I've analyzed it and discovered it through inference in some way, by using all of the signs that Buddha told me to establish that, yes, this makes sense. This seems to concord with reality. This seems to tally with what reality is for me, not for Buddha. Buddha's fine. The bodhisattvas are fine. I need to figure it out for me so that I keep doing this. And that's why you see these great practitioners, these great masters like Khyentse Geshe Wandak, still looking at text and still studying, and, if at least showing us the example of what to do. If, in my mind, my teacher is the Buddha. But what does the Buddha do? The Buddha shows us exactly what we need to do. So I watched Khyentse Geshe Wandak reading, like, the last year of his life, sometimes 1,000 pages in a day, just trying to get clearer and clearer, from me participating as an observer, someone studying and looking at texts and looking at a variety of different texts and so forth, to really be able to discover exactly what is being presented for the practitioner. We have to discover it. We have to understand what this stuff means sooner or later, because if we don't start to, have mini realizations. And when I say realizations, I mean like, oh, this kind of makes sense because I've thought about it a little bit. I just didn't go to a teaching and, googly eye and an exotic person in robes and decided that they could somehow fix me. Maybe they could fix me, but they couldn't fix me the way that I thought when I first walked into the room and saw a holy being. I thought that they could actually like wave something and fix me or remove the suffering I had walked in there with. But really, the only way that an enlightened holy being fixes us is by teaching us something. And by teaching us something, then we have the wisdom arisen from hearing, and then we have to analyze it, what they taught us. There's the teaching of it itself. It just is something that we're hearing and saying, wow, this sounds really good. Man, this sounds right. And this person looks really good. They look really holy and smiley and squinty. It must be good. But until we then take what we've heard and analyze it and decide it's good for ourselves, it's not going to have momentum for the long run. So I heard Jeffrey Hopkins say, you better start getting some kind of realizations or you won't have any fervor. You won't keep your effort. And a lot of people get hardened by the Dharma and they just stack up knowledge and they just become kind of unhappy, dull kind of folks because they haven't integrated it and seen the joy in it. They haven't seen like the wonder in meditating on the truth of suffering, that, starting to think in a way that's real instead of a way that's diluted and wrong is exciting. And this is how we should look at it. But it's not exciting if it's just information. It's exciting if we're starting to discover what the Buddha said is correct. And we start to discover what it is we would need to do to be free from the lower realms, what it is we would need to do to have an abiding nirvana in the here a solitary realizer vehicle. What is it that we need to do to achieve Buddhahood? There's a way we can do it, and it'll take a long time, but it'll work, and we'll achieve Buddhahood in the perfection vehicle. There's a catch. At the end of it, we have to engage in Tantra on the 10th Bodhisattva ground. Or we could speed up the process by getting a really good foundation in, the teaching shared in common with beings of small, medium capacity and the perfection vehicle, and then applying that same understanding of emptiness and bodhicitta to the tantric path, and then seeing how the method is the deity yoga and the wisdom is the emptiness of the deity, seeing how you can carry over the perfection vehicle understanding of bodhicitta and carry over the understanding of emptiness, because it's the same emptiness, exactly the emptiness of inherent existence, intrinsic existence, the emptiness of it existing objectively right inside the object itself, from its own side, independently. So we're really, really fortunate that we have this Madhyamaka Prasangika view that's presented so clearly in the perfection vehicle. That's the same exact view that we need to do the ultimate deity meditation that then the deity arises from, which is emptiness. So it's the same emptiness that we're studying in the perfection vehicle. So you see people try to jump, and you'll see Sakya Pandita in this text that we're reading kind of, critique that wanting to jump, and it's really important that we take this stage by stage and don't try to say, oh, we're just special. We can do some like short text and have some short instruction on Mahamudra Dzogchen. And then, somehow or another, we'll get calm abiding and we'll unite it with special insights through this kind of awareness of not before, not after, the moment and the shapelessness, and Sakya Pandita said that this kind of meditation usually ends you up in the animal realm, at best the Shravaka, realizations, and then a medium, maybe some formless realm within the, cyclic existence. So we have to be very careful that we have the integrated, we have the, graduated stages of learning, so that the graduated stages of the path can actually be achieved. because we know we need the wisdom arisen from hearing and learning, and then the wisdom arisen from analysis, and then the wisdom arisen from meditation. So it goes in that order. So this is what we're talking about tonight. We're going to start to try to figure out how to calm our minds down, starting from like the coarsest behavioral mental level, where we've got to get rid of the coarse stuff first so that we could really calm our minds down enough to get onto an object that matters the most. Because no matter what object we use, if it is an emptiness, and usually it can't be initially, unless you're super high end, it needs to end up at emptiness. Special insight, its object of observation is emptiness. So we're calming our minds down enough, no matter what the object of observation is, to eventually use it to look at the object of observation emptiness. But a lot of folks think, oh, I should speed this up and go right to the emptiness, and we'll see that that's not always the best decision for people like me who aren't so high scope. So now this is what we're going to discuss this evening. Now imagine, as we always do, the bodhicitta field. Imagine that you're bringing all sentient beings here to be your guest. Get into the 7-point Vairakana posture now. I think is a good idea, just to kind of set your physical body into a posture that really, really supports your mind to be able to get as clear as it can. To, your mind, when the physical body, is set in a way that the blood flows properly and the wind can move freely about the cabin of our body, then it allows for our mind to be able to be harnessed in the best way possible, because our body kind of supports this. So we want our minds to be as clear as possible. We want to avoid the faults of the 3 pots, as it says in the Lamrim. So let's get into the 7-point Vairakana posture, and then let's begin to invite all sentient beings to be our guest. And this 7-point Vairakana posture is inspiring to them, as it says in the Lamrim Chemo. So you're sitting in this posture and you're imagining that you're inviting them to be your guest. Imagine however you want to do it. You can imagine that you're sending out bodies and, gathering sentient beings, however you need to, is best for you to do it. But just imagine that all of these sentient beings have been invited here by you to be your guest, to be able to hear the truth of suchness, to be able to learn how to transform their minds, how to subdue their minds, how to abandon evil, how to engage in perfect virtuous actions, how to subdue their mind, because that's the teaching of the Buddha. Buddha said so. We find this in the Vinaya. So we imagine we're leading all sentient beings here to be able to learn how to abandon evil, engage in perfect virtuous actions, and subdue their minds, learning how to abandon the coarsest kind of disruptions of the mind, to eventually be able to get the mind calm enough so that it can look at the most important object of observation in the universe in terms of getting rid of suffering, cutting the root of cyclic existence, the actual liberating paths to an abiding nirvana, liberating path to a non-abiding nirvana. The only thing that'll do that is that object of observation of the emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena, not some, not, everything but this special mind, this special Tathagata Garbha, this seed of the Buddha in me. Everything's empty but that. No, has to see the emptiness of all phenomena eventually. So this is where we will eventually, move this concentration to, which is the truth of suchness, the liberating path that is the only thing that will cut the root of cyclic existence, the only thing that will cut the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience. And the cutting is the same cutting, but the wind, kind of the ripening paths are different, depending on what the result one is aiming for. If it just one wants an abiding nirvana, then renunciation combined with the wisdom is fine. And that's what does it. But if one wants complete Buddhahood, one needs to have, excuse me, the wisdom realizing emptiness combined with the renunciation and bodhicitta, because we know renunciation is the base of bodhicitta. when combined with the wisdom realizing emptiness. And how do we see the wisdom? How do we see emptiness? You have to have a really calm mind. You have to have a union of calm abiding and special insight that eventually then, that's at a conceptual level, that eventually then allows for a breakthrough moment like Tsongkhapa had, and the direct perception of emptiness, where the generic image is no longer there, and it's a non-conceptual understanding of the nature of reality through a yogic direct perception, which will all occur only if we create the causes for it to occur. So now you're bringing sentient beings to create the causes for them to be able to achieve the final goal of the Buddha taught one vehicle at the end of the day. The Buddha taught 3 vehicles. Here, a solitary realizer and bodhisattva vehicle. But at the end of the day, all those vehicles, the Buddha taught skillfully to lead various beings to eventual Buddhahood, depending on their aptitude and what they needed to be told at that time in order to get to Buddhahood. Some of them needed to be told, hey, there's an island where you can rest. And then they'd go rest, and then the Buddha'd say, okay, enough resting, you have to go work for the sake of all sentient beings. But that's another story for another time. So we'll invite all sentient beings to be our guests. I'll imagine that all sentient beings are being brought here so that I can teach them, and I'll recite the verse from the Sanchen Molam, the King of Aspiration prayers, that says, may I be able to speak to everyone in their own language and proclaim this Dharma to them all. Lai ke dan le dan jin ke drubun da dan mi ke nan dan dro wa gun ji dra nan ji samba dan je ke du da ji ju den do, in the language of gods, nagas, and yaksas, in the language of demons and of humans too, and however many kinds of speech there may be, I shall proclaim the Dharma in the language of all. So now imagine, as you hear me say those words, and you imagine that all sentient beings are here, imagine that whatever sufferings they're undergoing, the hells, the hot and cold sufferings, and torture, and the hungry ghosts, the hunger and thirst, it's complete insatiability, complete. We're used to insatiability, but this is just complete. You can never, ever have any moment of thinking things where, it's just the kind of grossest form of our insatiability all of the time. And the animals tortured, being fearful of eaten by another being all of the time, looking for shelter, being so cold, all of these sufferings. Human sufferings were so clear on what we have: birth, aging, sickness, and death, meeting with the unpleasant, separating from the pleasant, not getting what we want, and separating of the appropriated aggregates. And the demigods and gods who, the demigods so jealous and wishing, wanting, some of the things that are better that they can't have, the gods have. And then the gods just being like oblivious and not realizing that they're too going to be thrust into a lower realm. So imagine that all of these kind of forms of suffering, and even if we're looking at the gods realm and we're looking at, those gods will eventually, in their beautiful flowers and their smells so good, eventually the flowers wilt in the gods realms, the Buddha says, and then they stink and no one wants to be near them. And they were the kings of the world in their minds a moment ago. So all of the beings within the realms of cyclic existence have to experience various types of suffering. And imagine that the beings in the desire realm, form and formless realm, even those beings in the peak of existence who are just addicted to meditative concentration, who think they're enlightened or in nirvana. The Buddha's last teacher was in this state. And the Buddha said, you're not enlightened. I know better, and left. Even these beings, imagine that they understand their plight for a moment. And then this idea of needing to find the truth comes into their mind. So we should make all these, the reason I do these exercises is we're trying to make this actually real in our minds, actually have something happen. So you imagine that they have this moment where they understand the truth of suffering, the suffering of suffering, suffering of change, pervasive compounded suffering. All realms, the desire realm, form or formless realm, have among those 3 types, at least the pervasive compounded suffering. So you imagine that these beings have realized the truth of suffering, according to what Buddha taught. At the most subtle level, the pervasive compounded suffering. And then this makes them want to be free and want to know what to do about fixing the problem. And then imagine that they understand that, oh, this is where we are, okay, where we've been brought is somewhere where the truth of suchness is being taught. And this is what will make it three sufferings, suffering of change, and pervasive compounded suffering end forever. So now imagine that all of the sentient beings realize that the medicine is here for the illness that they have of having be thrust again and again and again into a set of contaminated aggregates because of contaminated karmas, afflictions, and their seeds, and at the root because of ignorance. So there's a fix here. So imagine that all sentient beings realize that the antidote to the origin of suffering, the antidote to the cause of suffering, the opponent to the cause of suffering is being presented here right now. And imagine that all of the sentient beings that are here who've recognized their plight and cyclic existence in terms of the first noble truth and the truth of origin and the fact that it can be fixed, and realize that they're at the place now to hear what they need to hear to fix it. Imagine that every single sentient being in the universe has a sigh of relief that there's an exact pathway to get the freedom from suffering and to get the state of reliability and bliss that the Buddha has. That everyone, when they think about what do we want happiness. How much happiness? The most amount of happiness. What do we want? We don't want suffering. Do we want to not have suffering, but tiny bit's okay? No, we want complete freedom from suffering. So we want the most amount of happiness, if we are all honest, and we want the least amount of suffering. 0 is best, 100% happiness, 0% suffering. And that's what we all are looking for. We all mentally, day and night, our minds are looking for happiness and freedom from suffering day and night. And sentient beings all are doing this. You know, the higher sentient beings on the Bodhisattva grounds, I understand, they have less problems. But let's think about it, let's think about this. This sigh of relief that here is something that's going to be heard. These beings are so happy. There's something that's going to be heard that actually is information that matters. We hear so much information all the time, over and over again, bombarded with it. We're addicted to it. And most of it is just meaningless. It's crap, but we're so addicted to it. Oh, let me find out how to peel an egg with a tweezer, and let's watch people do it all day. When we could be meditating on the nature of reality and figuring out how to be happy forever and never suffer again. Yet we sit and do this stuff with our moments that we have, that our moments are just marching towards death. Our moments are our enemies in one way because they're marching towards death. They're making each moment every time it drops, every time the moment goes away, we're older. It's a marcher towards death. But in that moment, we have a pocket that we can do something about what will happen after death. And that's the trick here, to get more and more capable at that. And the way we become more and more capable at that is to immerse our minds with practices that mean something to us, so that we can then say, okay, this makes sense to me. This makes sense to me. I've just brought all sentient beings here. Why'd I do that? Because they want what I want, freedom from suffering and happiness. How can they get freedom from suffering and happiness? They can learn the truth of suchness and get rid of the self-cherishing attitude, just like the same way that I will do that. And that I will need to rely upon all sentient beings in order to achieve complete reliability. So it starts to mean more and more to me, and it starts to become more tenable that I could connect to every sentient being in the universe, and I could actually teach the truth of suchness to every single sentient being in the universe, because I've created a mental basis. I've created causes and conditions that can turn this mind that's sullied with defilements into a mind that no longer is sullied with defilements. It has a freedom from a natural freedom of purity of the adventitious, which is a nature body's, purity, the cessation of the stains of the afflictive obstructions and obstructions to omniscience. So we bring all sentient beings here to be our guests. Now imagine all sentient beings are relieved that they're, okay, finally going to hear something, just like you're going to hear something, and I'm going to talk about something that isn't stupid. I talk about stupid things a lot during the day. I'm going to finally talk about something that means something. You're going to finally listen to something that means something. All sentient beings are going to finally listen to something that means something. The thing that I'm going to say that actually means something, though, is empty of inherent existence. The sentient beings are empty of inherent existence. What I'm saying is empty of inherent existence. Buddhahood is empty of inherent existence. So we keep this in mind and seal all of this kind of understanding with the understanding of emptiness for those who have studied. And I know that some of you on Zoom and so forth know exactly what I mean by this. So, and anyone who's new, just study more and you'll start to understand the three spheres, the emptiness of action, agent, and object, and how we really need to seal our five perfections, 6 perfections, the first 5 perfections with this, in order for them to work together to make us be able to have Buddhahood. Because we won't, with the first 5 perfections, be able to achieve anything but cyclic existence. They need to be combined with that 6th perfection. And then we see that the generosity is empty of inherent existence. Me being generous is empty of inherent existence. And the person I'm being generous to is empty of inherent existence. And then that generosity becomes kind of imbued with the understanding of emptiness. But we'll talk more about that at another time. So imagine that everyone's relieved. We're talking about things that make sense, that tally with reality, that aren't just idle gossip, meaningless words. So rejoice in this also. A sigh of relief, but also rejoice in the fact that we're doing this. Rejoice in the fact that you're taking your time out to actually listen to something meaningful, because most of the time we take time out to do dumb things. So rejoice in the fact that you're taking your time out to do something meaningful. And this leaves an imprint in your mind that says, hey, doing meaningful things is good. It's literally that simple. When you rejoice, your mind leaves an imprint that says, oh, there's some familiarity with this idea that doing meaningful things is good. And usually rejoice in the fact that, oh man, I just got my new car. Then you're leaving imprints within your mind that doing meaningless things is good. And you'll do more and more meaningless things as you send your attention towards things that are meaningless, and then have inappropriate attention and make them even more meaningless things more valuable. And then that's what you do in your mind all day and night. And the opposite is you take meaningful things and then you make those meaningful things in your mind more valuable by giving them attention and proving to yourself that they're meaningful. You'll never be able to prove to yourself that the things within cyclic existence that bind you are meaningful. You'll think they are, and then over and over again, experience will make you find out they aren't, but you won't remember that the problem was cyclic existence. You'll think the problem was the object, and you just need a different one to feel good. You need something, different, to run at, and that'll be the cure. When the only cure is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So we're talking about a cure tonight. So rejoice in that fact and have a sigh of relief that suffering can end. Your unreliability. We want to be so reliable, but we can't be. We don't even know how to help people. We don't have clairvoyance even. We don't even know what the best way to help someone is, even in a conventional sense, because we don't have skill set, even of bodhisattvas in the path of accumulation and preparation and so forth. Well before, becoming a Buddha, we don't have skill sets that make us reliable, even kind of reliable. We're the worst. We're the most unreliable, and we can only become more and more reliable until we're the only reliable with a capital R teacher with a capital T. And that's a awakened one, a Buddha. So Don't settle for anything less than reliability, because all paths lead to Buddhahood anyway. And you're going to have to become reliable sooner or later. So why wait to experience freedom from suffering and bliss 24/7? Why wait? Why would you do that? You wouldn't wait, if you knew you had to do A, B, and C to get exactly what you wanted, such as going on the internet and searching out your favorite chair and then paying for it and then knowing when it's coming and making sure there's a place in the room to get the perfect chair. You're willing to do A, B, C and so forth, and D and E and F and G, sometimes all the way to Z times, multi to the 10th power, to get things within cyclic existence that never produce happiness. So now, being willing and doing something that actually, doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, produces happiness and bliss, is awesome. So this is how we should think about it. So all sentient beings, you, everyone, 7-point Vairocana posture, and we'll just calm the room down a little tiny bit. This is the room where Khyentse Geshe Wandak spent his last couple of years, did a lot of meditation in this room. And we know that one of the conditions, is being in a conducive place. When you want to get calm, abiding meditation, one of the prerequisites is being in a conducive place. And one of the points to conducive place is, if you can, meditate in places where holy beings have meditated. So we're here. I've brought you all into this room with me in order to, make it have a little more juice. Not that anything can have power from its own side, but there are elemental factors and very hidden phenomena that we just can't understand, and only the Buddhas can understand. So we have to rely upon this idea that there is this, kind of power in place that's beyond our kind of understanding and reasoning at the end of the day. A little bit. So we're here, all sentient beings, in a place where it's conducive to meditation. We brought them all here. You're here with me. We're all here. This is what I'm thinking. You're imagining you're here. We're all here. We're in this room, this holy Nesa, it's called in Tibetan, this holy place, this powerful place. Sometimes it's like Bayu, like it's a really special place. And here we have this Nesa where we had a holy being. So we're all in the 7-point Vairocana posture, in a posture conducive to meditation, in a place conducive to meditation. And we're going to just get on an object of observation that we'll learn about later when we're learning about calm abiding, which is just breathing in and out and counting the breath. We're just going to all do this together. Imagine that all sentient beings are getting the conceptuality and discursive thought down. It says that on the teachings in calm abiding, shamatha, that you deal with the course's problems first. And if you have a problem with a lot of discursive thought, you kind of meditate on the breath, and you meditate, on this to kind of get your mind down more and more, so it becomes more pliable, more workable, so that it's not screaming at the top of its lungs at you, discursive thoughts or angry thoughts. You're dealing with the most gross things first. And it says if your mind wanders a lot, and for Westerners, for folks of this time, we're assaulted with information. We're addicted to information. We've never ever, as Alan Wallace said, in the history of mankind, had to deal, our minds, our brains, if you will, of a human, has ever had to process so much information at once. You're looking at a phone, just think, you could go to here and then you get a message, then someone calls you, and while you're on a call, you're actually even maybe checking messages. Even when I was younger, you'd have a rotary dial phone. You couldn't do anything else really but make that call, and only make that call within a certain area, because if you called 3 towns over, your parents screamed at you because it cost $6,000 to call someone 20 minutes away. So the bombardment of information factor was much less, even when I was a young child, not that we weren't bombarded, but you really had to like bombard yourself. Now it's just like, you're even the billboards and you're on the billboards and you have Siri saying, take a left on the thing. And you've got your speedometer you're looking at, and you have your, playlist on your music thing, and you're watching the road move as you're driving. And, there's just all of this stuff that was going on, and you're just being bombarded with opportunity for your mind to go this to that, and think about this, and think about that, and think about this, and scatter here and scatter there. So discursive thought and conceptuality for us is something that we really need to kind of punch out. And this is why meditation on the breath is so important. But don't get stuck thinking this is the means to the end, thinking that, oh, this object of observation of just staying on the breath, being somehow in some moment, in some gap, is going to suppress everything and then cut the problem. You can suppress it, but it's not going to make it go away for good until you apply wisdom to cut it out forever. So we're going to just focus on the breathing in and out and counting for a moment or two. We're going to, now all sentient beings are in this meditation posture. Now you stop focusing on other sentient beings. Stop focusing on any sense consciousness and draw your mind inward and abide on an object, which is, pacified external stimuli. So you're just going to have your mental focus be on your mind, is just focusing on just the breathing in and out, cycles of breath, breathing in and out, and the counting, just breathing in and out and the counting. And this is the focal object. We're looking to not have our minds scatter off into some other place and start talking about stuff and scattering off to desirous objects. We're going to try to have our minds not get sleepy and lax, dull, drop down, in clarity. So we want our minds to be really, really focused and really bright, really, really stable on that object, abiding calm, abiding on the object, calming external distraction, calming everything, abiding only on the object, and calming down all of the things in the outside, calming down our mental consciousness, pulling it all in. So mindfulness is something that doesn't forget the object. Introspection is a spy that makes sure that the object isn't forgotten. So you're trying to breathe, you focus your mind, mental consciousness on breathing in and out and the counting. And we should start when we're just beginning meditators with very short sessions. Just go to number 21. And it's funny, counting the breath to the number 21 in natural rounds is like a minute and a half long. But when you're new to meditation, counting the breath and getting to 21, it really seems like hours sometimes. And then you forget the number you're on. And then some meditation masters say, just go back to the beginning. So you could but then I've heard, and I think it's a better instruction, just to go back to the number you thought you were on and then move forward to the 21. Because if you keep going back to the beginning, the advice of having short meditation periods, how will you know when to end it? Unless you perfect 21 breaths without, any problem. And the discussion is that to keep the meditation sessions short in the beginning, so it isn't like, oh, I dread this, I have to go back to that cushion again. You should leave the meditation session when you're still fresh and kind of think it's good to be doing it. So we're going to breathe. We're going to focus our mental consciousness. It's our mental consciousness that will become omniscient. It's our mental consciousness that will see emptiness. Yogic direct perception is a mental direct perception. It's not a sense direct perception. So when we see emptiness directly, we will see it with our mind. So it's our mind that meditates, our mind that achieves calm abiding, our mind that achieves special insight, our mind that has a union of calm abiding of special insight. So this is the kind of neighborhood only that we're working in, is our mind. And we know that that's awesome, because if we had to work we had to like try to fix, we look at problems with our day. If we had to fix all external phenomena, it's innumerable. But thank goodness we just have this one thing, our mind, that we have to fix. Just like Shantideva said, if we were trying to, make the entire cover this, make the entire surface of the earth smooth by covering it with leather, that wasn't really going to be very, very possible. But if you as an individual were to put on a nice pair of shoes, then the whole world could be smooth. So there's a lot of wisdom in that, in understanding what that means. And that's that the external phenomena, external factors, and people who aren't nice and people who are overly nice that were attacked, there's just innumerable things that if you're going to just try and fix all of the external factors to try to make it everything perfect the way that it really should be in your mind, you're going to fail. But if you take the thing that's the object possessor, the subject, which is the mind, the person, the terms that you're, holding the object with, and you start to work with that, which is all referring to here, then you can really, really realistically not have problems with all external phenomena, because it's our mind's reaction to how we discriminate everything that we've come in contact to and pay attention to. So that discrimination of all phenomena causes us to have some feeling, and then that feeling causes us to have an intention to run towards something we love, an intention to push away something that we hate. So everything arises from feeling, Shantideva said. And where's that feeling coming from? It's from how we discriminate whatever object is. So if we can figure out how to have the discrimination working better, then it's like putting on the shoes that are soft and walking around in the world instead of trying to cover the entire world with leather, entire world with a soft cushion, just by having good shoes. Having a good mind, everything becomes a soft cushion. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. So let's just try and engage in a little bit of meditation, and then we'll move on to the prayers, and we'll talk a little bit about course problems that keep us from abiding on emptiness as the object of observation, emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena. And you can feel, as you do this meditation, just almost the pressure in the room going down, the pressure in your mind just getting less and less and less. You feel your body just becoming a little bit more stable to the ground, and just more stable. Everything just feels a little bit more, less kind of unmanageable, just more stable. Your body posture with the breathing starts to just become more stable. You feel more like you're, really have a good foundation there. And the pressure in the room almost feels like it's come down. As you're doing this, it's almost like a relief. It's like the discursiveness is just so stressful. It's like conceptuality, your mind, you don't even realize it. You don't even know it. You're so addicted to it. You don't even know that your mind just running after everything is so stressful. And when you do this kind of breathing meditation and the counting, even though it can be a little bit of frustrating to some degree in the initial stages because you're falling off the horse, the mindfulness, you're falling off, you still can feel the benefit, feel that mind's kind of unease settling down a little bit. And if you can have the unease settling down a little bit, then think about it. The coarser thing is out of the way. Now you can really start to look at analyze things without excitement or laxity a little bit better. And now your analytical meditation, because you're, learning how to get your discursiveness down, your analysis is a lot more potent. And then once you get, this discursiveness down even more and more and more, and you can kind of dwell in this kind of non-discursive place better and better and better, then you can learn how to take that very, very calm mind and point it at emptiness. So it's amazing. So amazing. Just rejoice in the fact that we have these tools. So now we're going to recite the Heart Sutra. So this Heart Sutra, second turning of the wheel of Dharma, the definitive teaching of Lord Buddha, where Buddha meant what he said. The Buddha meant what he said because it's the teaching on ultimate truth. According to the Madhyamaka Prasangika view, it's only the teaching on ultimate truth. It's the definitive teaching, only the teaching on the emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena that is the definitive teaching. And anything else needs to be interpreted. And we see so clearly as we start to study emptiness more and more and more and start to see how dependent origination is a positive phenomena and emptiness is a negative phenomena. But then when you say emptiness, those who see dependent origination see the Dharma, and those who see the Dharma see the Buddha. We have to start to understand, well, if you see dependent origination, do you see emptiness? No, not necessarily. So we have to start to really become good at interpreting things that aren't definitive, like a statement like that. Because in order for you to understand emptiness through dependent origination, you have to say dependent origination means that things are not independent. Boom. Emptiness means things are empty of independence. Boom. So if something is empty of independence, it's not independent. If something is dependent, it is not independent. So now we match emptiness and we can somehow match dependent origination, but they are not synonyms. They are not equivalent. They're musum. Emptiness of inherent existence and dependent origination. So we have to come to understand that you think that, oh, I'm meditating on dependent origination, I'm meditating on emptiness. Because I'm meditating on cause and effect, I'm meditating on emptiness. No, meditating on cause and effect can lead you to understand that things are not autonomous. But you have to then say, oh, they are not independent. They are empty of independence because they are dependent. Just because something is dependent origination, just because you know that you put a sprout, and you put a seed and it makes a sprout, doesn't mean that you understand emptiness. And emptiness, the understanding of the emptiness of inherent existence of that seed and that sprout is only the emptiness of inherent existence. When the yogi realizes emptiness, inferentially even, there's no other object implicitly realized. There's no dependent origination realized when you see emptiness directly. And when you are not a Buddha and you come out and you see dependent origination, you are seeing dependent origination. You can't directly see the ultimate truth. So anyway, that's just a little bit of hubbub about emptiness and stuff. And, cheers to Lama Tsongkhapa for clarifying object of negation and being so clear. And Jelsub J, being so clear, and he took notes on what Lama Tsongkhapa said, and then Lama Tsongkhapa said some other stuff, and it's just so wonderful that we have all of these teachings, and that are commenting on the Nalanda Pandits that comment on Lord Buddha's teachings, and Lord Buddha's teachings were just so much like a puzzle. We're so fortunate that these Indian Pandits came and made the puzzle so much clearer, and then that these great Tibetan masters came and then showed us how to really clarify the puzzle. So we're so fortunate. Before we get started with the Heart Sutra, just imagine the merit field in the space in front of you, and imagine that all of the enlightened beings are there in the space in front of you, so that we can kind of have both the bodhicitta field and the merit field here, so that as we're meditating on these things and we're thinking about the Heart Sutra, the omniscient beings can hear our minds thinking about emptiness, thinking about the 5 paths that are implicitly taught within this, and come to understand what we need help with, what we're misunderstanding, and figure out exactly how to teach us the truth of suchness. So we're imagining that these beings are here with us right now, the merit field in the space in front of us, Buddha Shakyamuni, and all of the lamas that you consider holy enlightened beings, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Khyentse Geshe Wandak, Demalocha Rinpoche, Geshe Lobsang Gompo, Khyentse Lobsang Gyatso, Geshe Dorje Damdu, Umzala Geshe Aga, Geshe Mala Tenzin Ladrin, Jeffrey Hopkins, who were praying for all obstacles to his health to be removed right now, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, any of these beings you consider holy, all the beings of the extensive deeds lineage, profound view lineage, lineage of blessings, imagining Drone Tompa passing down, getting past the Lamrim lineage from Atisha, and then all of the 3 old Kadampa lineages, all the holy beings of the Nyingma, Sakya, Kaju, and Galupa, imagining these holy beings in the lineages we're so connected to, Lama Tsongkhapa, Kirtub J, Joseph J, the Panchen Sonandrapa, Basu Chuchi Jetson, Jayan Sheba, Janja Rilpi Dorje, Gonju Jimmy Wampo, the 7th Dalai Lama, Bubajo, Jetsumba, all these holy beings, the highest Yoga Tantra deities, Yoga Tantra deities, Performance Tantra deities, Action Tantra deities, all the 35 Buddhas, all of the protector deities are here in the space in front of us, ready to hear our minds, ready to be, spontaneously teach us what we need to hear to get rid of the grasping at true establishment, the grasping at the self as being inherently existent, self a person and self a phenomena as being inherently existent, that gives rise to the self-cherishing attitude that keeps us from becoming the most reliable guides in the universe. So imagining the whole merit field in the space in front of us, and imagining we're sharing this with all sentient beings who are here with us as our guests, and they're here with open ears, without the faults of the 3 pots, in order to be able to hear the truth of suchness, the definitive teaching of the second turning of the wheel of Dharma given in Rajgiri at Vulture Peak Mountain by Lord Buddha, where Buddha blessed the minds of Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara in order to teach the Madhyamika Prasangika view of emptiness, the non-affirming negative that tells us all phenomena lack inherent existence, and that doesn't then imply anything else but that all phenomena lack inherent existence. It's just not. It's just no. But then we need to be able to posit that lack of inherent existence is different than saying it doesn't exist. Okay. So now we move on to the Heart Sutra, the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. And we can leave the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha monks and a great gathering of the Sangha Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. At the same time, Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajaparamita? Addressed in this way, Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajaparamita should see in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics, there is no birth and no cessation, there is no impurity and no purity, there is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no eye, dhatu, up to no mind, dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness, dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin, suffering, no cessation, no suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear, they transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of 3 times of Mita Prajaparamita, fully awakened, unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, Shabun's truth, there is no deception. Prajaparamita mantra is said in this way. Teata on gate gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhiso, Adashariputra. The Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train the profound Prajaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara. Bodhisattva Mahasattva saying, good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, the whole assembly in the world, with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, in praise, rejoice and praise the words of the Blessed One. Agasamara Jasandra Samara, Dea Don Gaticate, Paracate, Prasangati, so Papa Conchasuji, Kaitimichi, Lobotoji, Mepotoji, Shiwadoji, Dragi Bajimetabishi, Danji, and Korea Soa, Kirin Jaji, Wada, Midun, Nubej, and Andrewada, Tumba, Junjin, Bonzon, Joji, Daji, Dejan, and De Lejo. Now I'll read the source of all my good. So we know what we're going to make the mandala offering for, to request, the request for teaching, where we're going to request and make supplications to be able to understand this content more. When we look at the 6 preparations and we see the 6th preparation, we make the leave that up. When we see the 6th preparation and we make the mandala offering, and after we make the mandala offering, we make further supplications. May I be able to understand this. May I be able to have the strength to do this. We'll make the supplication, the alongside the mandala offering, and it's to supplicate that we be able to understand this content right here, the source of all my good. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow him with all my strength and reverence. Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or black, what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs, the many wrongs we do. Try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to see all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They can't be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall that what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddhist teachings. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, everyone my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see with genuine certainty that the wish itself is not enough, for if I'm not well trained in the 3 moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva vows. Grant me that I may quickly gain the path where calm abiding and insight join together, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. Grant that once I practice well the path shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter with perfect ease the way of the diamond, highest of all ways, holiest door to come inside for the fortunate and good. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I've entered thus, the cause that gives me both the high attainments is to keep my pledges and my vows most pure. Grant me then to always keep them, even at the cost of my life. Bless me next to realize as well as I can the crucial points of both the steps, the essence of the secret ways. Grant me that to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the 4 times highest that there is. Bless me, grant me that the spiritual friend who shows me this good road and all my true companions in this quest live long and fruitful lives. Bless and grant me that the rain of obstacles, things within me or outside me that could stop me now, stop and end forever. And all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. And now we know what we're requesting we're making a mandala offering as a request for teaching. We're asking them to rain Dharma on us. What Dharma do we want rained on us? We want the Dharma we just read rained on us, so we can understand the teachings for beings of three capacities found within the foundation of all good qualities, source of all my goods. We'll make a mandala offering as a request for this teaching. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas High, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready. A shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. If you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha, Gautama, I pay homage. Okay, we're so fortunate. I mean it so much that, wow, we get to study this stuff. We get to learn about, what we see, the one, the union of calm abiding and special insight, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects. What are wrong objects? Well, we're looking for a quieting to happen. We're looking for a calming to happen of wrong objects, external objects. Pabunka Rinpoche says, he's talking about drawing the mind in and then having it abide on a mental object. So we know that when we look at etymology of calm abiding, shine, we have the mind is abiding on an internal object of observation upon calming of distraction to the outside. So the mind's abiding inwardly. And it's defined as a stabilization arisen from meditation conjoined with a special pliancy. So this is how we've been defining it. It's in Meditation on Emptiness by Jeffrey Hopkins, if you want to look at the section on calm abiding. But this is just the standard etymology, standard definition that you find in the great texts. No one's really going to argue with you, whether it's Panchen Sonondrapa or Jitsamba or, no, Jayan Sheba. No one's really going to argue with you. I forgot the fourth, apologize. Going to argue with you. I know Purbajok, but another going to argue with you about the mind's abiding on an internal object with pacifying distraction to the outside. So it's all good, and we learned about, okay, that's the, what it is. Well, how does that work? How could I possibly ever have my mind abide on an internal mental object for any period of time? It's like pictures in my mind of, generic images just flashing like that thing when you're a kid where you keep changing the picture. It's viewfinder, something it's called. I forget. But you go like this and it would change a picture. Maybe kids don't have it anymore. It's on a phone. You're swiping and you're changing a picture. Anyway, it's I don't even remember why I brought that up. I wish I had a live audience so someone could talk back to me and could, like Geshe Dorje Damdu, and says, hey, what was I talking about? So anyway, you're bringing your mind inward to this object. So anybody time when I say, what was I talking about, that wants to unmute and turn their camera on, feel free to do so and let me know, hey, I'm riding this train with you, Jeff. I'm paying attention and I know what you're talking about. And I can tell you where you just lost track because I don't have the faults of the three pots, because we promised our minds we weren't going to let that happen before the teaching started. And we told our minds we were going to tell them what to do. So anyway, I'm just joking around, but how much, I'm not sure. So we know that if we want to achieve calm abiding, that in order to achieve calm abiding, there's certain prerequisites that have to be there. And those prerequisites are pretty kind of tough. When you look at this place you're going to go to meditate, and you have to be in this agreeable place and have few desires and have satisfaction, pure ethics, forsaking going here and there and abandoning thoughts of desire and so forth. Like, there's these prerequisites that are a pretty tall order. So when you get into this place, you say, wow, I have lots of desires, lots of anger, lots of discursive thoughts, lots of these other things that are a real major problem, and they're going to just be in the way so loud if I don't deal with them first. So, in the texts, it talks about, dealing with the problems that are the loudest. It says we have to overcome the vibrancy of the afflictions by ways of objects of observation that will allow us to kind of push down those things that that predominate our minds, such as desire or hatred or discourse, or ignorance or pride or jealousy or discursiveness. If these are the loudest things in our mind, we have to overcome their vibrancy. It says in Meditation on Emptiness, if they're so vibrant in our mind, we have to push them down, suppress the vibrancy, so that they aren't the number one thing that's keeping us from then being able to settle on maybe the next object you're going to move to, which is a fixed image maybe of a Buddha, and so forth. So we're going to talk about, we obviously have to land on the object of observation, emptiness. But here in Meditation on Emptiness, right after calm abiding and special insight is defined, I know we're maybe backing up a little bit, but who cares? We're just trying to teach us each other, right, how to learn this. And we were in, the suppression mode. We were talking about, how to, deal with the behavioral issues initially, purifying the objects of observation for purifying behavior, I think that they're called. We were talking about that, but why not go to emptiness first? So Meditation on Emptiness gives us a why not first. If emptiness is the thing we have to put our calm mind on at the end of the day, why aren't we starting there? So it says the object. So in Meditation on Emptiness, those who've been following for a while, we looked at the meditations that this yogi is doing, of identifying if the self of person is one with the aggregates or separate from the aggregates, and doing this analysis of the chariot. That's usually done about a chariot, but we're doing a 7-point analysis of the self of person and seeing if it abides in any 7 ways that it could inherently abide somewhere, somehow. And found that, we're using this analytical meditation to come to some sort of conclusion. And the conclusion is that things are empty of inherent existence. So that conclusion then, that you're concluding and you're becoming more and more smart about, through analytical meditation, special insight meditation, then, why not just the conclusion? Why not use that to look at, use that as your object of observation of your meditation initially? And it says the object with respect to which calm abiding is achieved should possess a special purpose. Okay, so the object of observation that you're going to use, make it have a special purpose. So object of the observation of emptiness here in the second stage of Meditation on Emptiness has a special feature of facilitating generation of special insight. But emptiness, due to its profundity, is a difficult object for beginners. So that's me. Okay, you're talking to me. You're talking to my language. Okay, so I shouldn't probably start with emptiness as the object of observation for my calm abiding or to try to calm my mind down. Unless memory of the realization of emptiness during the first stage remains firm, since one must temporarily forsake analysis and remain only in stabilizing meditation in order to achieve calm abiding, the ascertainment of emptiness can weaken to the point where one is no longer meditating on emptiness, but on nothingness. Hashan, just empty the mind. nothingness. Such meditation could only increase ignorance, and thus many choose a different object. So why is that going to increase in ignorance? Well, Sakya Pandita talks about it too. Talks about it being a fool's meditation. Someone who really doesn't have the grip on emptiness, well, and then saying, okay, we're going to, use this object of, we're going to do Mahamudra, we're going to do Dzogchen. It says, instead of studying the great Buddhist texts, many foolish and arrogant practitioners nowadays try to use brief and simplistic explanations to gain an understanding of the philosophical views contained in such teachings as the Great Seal and Great Completion. So Dzogchen. So it's saying people think that they can understand Mahamudra or Dzogchen without understanding the complete overview of all the other philosophical points. So these foolish, arrogant people think that, oh, okay, I can just go right to the quickness. I just need a short manual. I don't need to study teaching shared and common with beings of small, medium, great capacity. I don't need to understand object of negation. I don't need to understand things very, very well. And it says, though, however, rarely do any of them even achieve the genuine calm abiding that is taught in the great works, even though this meditative state is common to non-Buddhist traditions as well. So it says that folks who are doing this don't even achieve calm abiding, let alone like the understanding of emptiness, the union of calm abiding and special insight. They don't achieve calm abiding because they're sitting in dullness, nothingness, and a dullness that is being mistaken for something else. And it says that, even non-Buddhist traditions can get calm abiding, dummies, and you're doing something that even, that you can't even get to calm abiding as a Buddhist, and non-Buddhists are doing that. It says then, in addition, as the root text on the Mahamudra teachings explains, practices such as the one called gazing at the mind's face are merely techniques for coming to recognize the mind's conventional truth nature. While these persons believe that they are meditating skillfully, in truth, they are mistakenly strayed down a false path. Such a meditation is like meditating that a copper ball is made of gold. Like you're not meditating on what you think you're meditating on. So then you calm your mind down a whole bunch and get dull on something wrong. A meditation practice that mistakes cultivating languor for genuine meditation will not even bring rebirth in one of the two higher realms. It's a practice that will cause the practitioner to be born as an animal. As Sakya Pandita wrote, a fool's meditation on the Mahamudra will probably cause him to become an animal. If not, they'll fall into the listener's cessation or else be reborn in a formless state. A meditation practice that is not supported by any of the three principal elements of the path will not take you any further along the path or allow you to reach any higher spiritual level. For example, there are instructions that urge us to meditate on the mind by examining its colorlessness and shapeless nature, using aphorisms like, neither stop the flow of previous thoughts, nor anticipate the arising of future ones. Stay right there. But these ineffective kinds of meditation will only cause us to waste our life without bringing anything of real value. Sitting in blank. Don't think about the past. Don't think about the future. Just sit in blank. This sitting in blank. Sitting in sleepy. Sitting in dull. We do that every night. We go to bed. We just do it at a deeper level of dull. Got to really be careful to understand that calm abiding isn't just chill sleepy. It's brilliant and bright. All the lights are on and calm. Calm, bright, calm and illuminated. So we try to get our minds, we beat up the loud things first. We have attachment, we apply the antidote of ugliness. We have aversion, we apply the antidote of love. We have too much ignorance, we apply the antidote of dependent origination. We have too much pride. We apply the antidote of thinking about all the things that we don't know about. We think about impermanence. We're going to, what do we have to be so prideful of? I am the king. Who is the king? This thing that's going to die, disintegrating moment by moment. If we have problems with jealousy, we start to try to think about cherishing others and how that really brings us happiness. And we have problems with discursive thought, then we meditate upon the calming down of the mind by meditating on the breath and so forth. So all of the kind of loud problems in our mind have antidotes that we can apply in our meditation, and we can apply them in an analytical meditation. And then it says that we can then sit in the realization, sit in the ugliness of it. Sit in the understanding of the love to a degree. Lama Tsongkhapa says in the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, when we're doing this kind of meditation where we're trying to deal with the coarsest things, we're doing this analytical meditation, and we're trying to not be excited and having our mind go off of what we've told it to do, and that is, analyze this, ugliness, coarseness of the dirtiness of the body. But then we sit somehow, not moving the mind, analyzing its dirtiness in the dirtiness, calmly, somehow. And this then allows us to kind of get our minds more and more matured to be able to, it looks like, and there's no, other meditation teachers teach it in different ways, but it looks like the way Khenser Geshe Wandak taught it to me was that you then could then be more realistic about maybe choosing a Buddha as your object, because you're not so angry at your neighbor. Now the loudest things aren't there, but now you've got the normal moving, like the normal moving of attachment and stuff like that that's going on, that isn't like, someone who's obsessed with anger and obsessed with attachment. The normal, kind of mellower levels that we all, like everybody kind of has no matter what, until you're much more mature. And then you could focus on something like a Buddha. And then you could really, have such a calm mind and such a smart mind and become more and more mature to be able to focus on emptiness. So that's kind of the name of the game around here, is trying to get yourself to the point where you can focus this mind that normally won't focus on anything you tell it to only focus on emptiness. But it's kind of a process to get to it. And to really focus on emptiness, that means that you have to have the wisdom arisen from hearing and analysis that's so clean, really so clean, that Madhyamaka Prasangika view so clean that you could take a book like this, Meditation on Emptiness, and just breeze through it like nothing. Breeze through the Buddha Palita's points and Baba Vega's points, and why Baba Vega is being refuted by Chandrakirti, and what the difference between the Yogacara autonomy school and the Sutra autonomy school is, and where they kind of got it wrong and where they kind of got it right, and where they have a kind of comment got it right with the Madhyamaka Prasangika view, and how the Madhyamaka the middle way autonomy school, the Madhyamaka Svatantrika view, has a lot of common things, but they're just kind of coarse understandings of true existence versus the subtle understanding of true existence that the Prasangika view has. So you start to come to really understand that there are these different levels of understanding of emptiness that you must have, and that you probably don't have, and that I do not have. So I have to search out what these things are that I didn't even know I was thinking that are wrong. And the way I search them out is to start to differentiate between these tenets and say, oh, wow, I didn't even know I held that view. And then you find out how the next tenet system negates the view, so that I get rid of an ignorance in my mind I didn't even know that I had. So it takes this intensive study to look at what the object of negation is, so that you point your mind calmly at the right thing. You can point your mind calmly at anything once you have calm abiding, but pointing it at the right thing is the name of the game. And you've got to have your special insight, your analysis, kind of catching up with it, so your mind isn't calm abiding, isn't pointing at the wrong thing. You could calmly point at the wrong thing the rest of your life, and it won't do anything but give you samsara. The only liberating path is a very specific kind of emptiness, and it's the emptiness of all phenomena, the emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena. It's a very small window, and it's the only one. And if you don't understand that in its totality, the 20 emptinesses, there's so many different numbers of emptiness, 16 emptiness, 20 emptiness. I was looking at suffering. We say 8 suffering, 6 suffering, 3 suffering. And you're like, Jeff, stop. That's enough of the 8. Try it. I think it's 110 mentioned in Asanga's Bodhisattva levels, 110 types of suffering. I saw today when I was looking for something I couldn't find and was very frustrated that I didn't find what I was looking for. So if you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. I even had a clock in front of me tonight, and I'm over more than ever. Sheesh. Thought putting a clock in front of me was going to fix this, huh? I told my mind what to do, and it didn't do it again. Surprise. Prayer for the flourishing of Tsongkhapa's teachings. Though he's the father, producer of all conquerors, as a conqueror's son, he produced the thought of upholding the conqueror's dharma in infinite worlds. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. When in the presence of Buddha Indraketa, he made his vow, the conqueror and his offspring praise his powerful courage. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. A lineage of pure view and conduct might spread. He offered a white crystal rosary to the sage who offered him a conch and prophesied. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. His pure view, free of eternity or destruction, his pure meditation, cleansed of dark fading and fog, his pure conduct, practiced according to the conqueror's orders, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Learned, since he extensively sought out learning, reverent, rightly applying it to himself, good, dedicating all for beings in doctrine, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Through being sure that all scriptures, definitive and interpretive, were without contradiction, advice for one person's practice, he stopped all misconduct. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Listening to the explanations of the 3 Pitakas, realized teachings, practice of the 3 highest higher trainings, his skilled and accomplished life story is amazing. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Outwardly calm and subdued by the hearer's conduct, inwardly trusting in the 2 stages practice, he allied without class. Good paths of sutra and tantra, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Combining voidness explained as the causal vehicle with great bliss, achieved by method, the effect vehicle. Hard essence of 80,000 Dharma bundles, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. By the power of the ocean of oath-bound doctrine protectors, like the main guardians of the 3 beings paths, quick-acting Lord Vaisharana Karmayana, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. In short, by the lasting of glorious gurus' lives, by the earth being full of good, learned, and reverent holders of the teaching, and by the increase of the power of its patrons, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. So we're so fortunate to have, Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings in this world. Okay. Now, concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. Fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I've collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I made, I apologize, and may they be purified by this mantra of Vajrasattva, imagining Vajrasattva in the space in front of you, inseparable from your root Lama. And imagine that light rays and nectar are showering down on you and all sentient beings and transforming into white Oz, transforming into white Oms, red Oz, and blue Hums, and purifying yours and all sentient beings, body, speech, and mind, respectively. Om Benzasata Samaya Manabla, Benzasata Zenwajida, the Meva, Zudugai Meva, Zubugai Meva, Anurag Meva, Savazeti Mebra, Jazava Kamazuchi, Mekitam Triam Guruhum Ha, Obagavanzava Kata Benzamami, Moka Benzabava Mahasamaya Sapa Ahom Fe. May we always be protected by Paul and Lamo. Jorama, 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 Tijakalachimo, Rama Chidachitan, Jorama, 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 Tijakalachimo, Rama Chidachitan, Jorama, 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 Tijakalachimo, 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 Chidachitan, Jorama. And we're so fortunate that Khensa Pema Jetson made it so clear to my teacher, Khensa Geshe Wandak, to abandon the harmful protector deity practices such as Dorje Shugden, and made it clear that that this was not a deity to rely upon. And we're so fortunate that we rely upon Paul Dalai Lama, and may His Holiness the Dalai Lama remain in this world for so long. And thank you to His Holiness the Dalai Lama for your kind advice and advising us in things that we don't necessarily understand so well, and clearing the way for us to be able to become enlightened as quickly as possible, and then clearing the way for us to not rely upon a spirit. And may all obstacles to you meeting with the Dharma and to anything causing the Dharma to disintegrate or to decline, may they be removed through this mantra of the Drapasundri, the three wrathful protectors. Om Vajrapani Harya Griva Garuda Om. Hey. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri, and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. Long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lord Chen Rezig in our world, walking in the same earth that we do. May he remain in this world and never, ever stop coming to this world to help us until samsara is empty. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, all powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso. May you stay until samsara's end. And now a prayer of supplication to Namgyal Khenser Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, my root Lama. And we know all of our root Lama is His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but I spent 25 years with Khenser Geshe Wandak. He was so kind and just right here teaching all of the time. So when I say my root Lama, it's not disparaging other Lamas. It's just I spent so much time with Khenser Geshe Wandak. Thank you, Rinpoche. Complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Khenser Geshe Wanda Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend who is inseparable from Aryatara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, food and music purified by Om Ahom, Om Ahom, Om Ahom. The rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you who placed the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like Atisha, who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. Teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears that elucidated the teachings for beings of three capacities. Now the sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that all of your teachers passed away and understood the sadness, entreating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. The spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. The sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world and take care of us in all of our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts and crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness, so they know who you really are. And may you become who he really is. Really, when we say may all sentient beings realize renunciation, bodhi, and chitta, and the correct view of emptiness in this, well, when I wrote this, this is something that we will all realize. It's not sentient beings over there. May they all. I'm a sentient being. May I realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness. So I become who you are, Rinpoche. So I become who you really are, a realized being who's realized the three paths, renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness. So I become who you are. And who you really are is a being who's realized these things. Who realizes these things perfectly? The Buddha. The Buddha realizes everything perfectly. So we're really, really making these strong supplications for a reason and trying to connect with our Lama for a reason, because we know that the foundation of all of our qualities is the teacher who teaches the truth of suchness. Without a qualified teacher, we can't be taught that which we need to know to become the teacher. Thank you. Have a wonderful week, and I hope your mind is virtuous now and then continues in each moment to be virtuous, because those virtuous moments of your mind plant virtuous seeds in your consciousness, that will give rise to concordant, compatible results. And you want happiness, right? You don't want suffering, right? So do in the moment that which will give rise to what you want, and stop doing in the moment that which gives rise to what you don't want. That's simple. Buddha taught stuff that was tough like rocket science, but it's not rocket science. See ya.